adjournment?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're starting.
it is 10 a.m. on September 16th, and I will call this City of Lacey Lodging Tax Advisory Committee meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. And the first item on our agenda is approval of minutes from our September 9th, 2022 meeting. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
And need a second.
I'll second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. We have approved the minutes from the last meeting. Our next agenda item is our 2023 applications. Our first review continued. And if I remember right, we left off our last meeting with Brats, Brews, and Bands, which brings us to visitor services and community profile. And so this is Lacey South Town Chamber of Commerce. And this looks like they are, what is this event?
So this is the support for the chamber as the profile, which is a business profile that gets distributed, and also a visitor center.
And this is not new. This is a recurring.
Right.
That's correct.
Well, maybe we should give Malcolm some, because it was before Malcolm that they used to ask for the profile separately, Discover Lacey separate, and what was the other piece of it?
I think they still do separately the barbecue.
Yeah, the barbecue separate, but anyway, this was, now they combined them.
So this is their operations fund.
So they're acting as a visitor center for Lacey. And then they also do a community profile just to promote the community through businesses that are members that are also located in Lacey.
I've been to a couple of their events and I'm also a member.
As part of that, I guess this is where Ruth maybe could help out. They also had a Discover Lacey program. And I think that used to be a separate thing, but that's now folded in as part of their visitor stuff. So there's this idea to promote Lacey through called swag, t-shirts, those type of things, to get, you know, personalized items for people to buy to promote Lacey.
Their office is back open again.
Right.
It is.
And that's
They
the
have
one.
limited staff.
Is that the one over here behind Paulson's?
So they moved, they're now located by, I'll say, Hallmark and the shoe store.
Merle Norman Cosmetics,
Yeah.
do you know
Yeah,
where that
yeah,
is? Yeah. That's where they're located.
And
Hate that.
what does this bring their total?
Yeah.
They're over by behind the shoe store, by Carl's Jr. And I guess we all have different landmarks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's generally where it is.
Yeah.
And do we know the amount of their combined request or?
Well, yeah, I mean, between that and the barbecue festival, you mean, and the golf tournament and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's substantial. And my question is Discover Lacey. Well, they're asking what percent of originates from the lodging tax is 87%, which is quite a bit. I don't know how active they are in Discover Lacey, and I'd like to figure that out because that was like, I think, a $20,000. If I remember right, did we used to give them 20,000, I think, to Discover Lacey? And I don't think when I looked on the website, I just couldn't find the calendar, and maybe I'm not looking in the right place, but anyway, I don't know. I would like to hear how active they are with Discover Lacey, because that's a $20,000 piece of it.
So Deputy Mayor, you asked just the combined total. So they have the visitor services and community profile for 70. They have $20,000 for the barbecue. They have $5,000 for their winter
Oh, yeah. I
Winter
forgot about
Fest,
that.
and then they have $5,000 for a Chamber Golf Classic. So it's a total of $100,000.
Gotcha.
They also did not complete question number 1. So I'd like them to speak to question number 1,
Right.
because that's a very key piece of this.
Now, is question number 1 going to be something that operationally they can, I mean, these are operation dollars, right?
Well, that's true. These are operational, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
But they also
Because,
operation dollars and Discover Lacey, and so that should be pushing people to hotels, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that
I know the festival well. So, I mean, I guess it couldn't hurt to hear what is on the agenda for the year, or say, hey, you know, I know they got that new location. Very exciting. And
So this also, they talk about staffing, and another person mentioned staffing is reimbursable, and I didn't think staffing was reimbursable.
It's basically operating costs for a tourism promotion entity. And so that is a eligible cost for operations.
It is
Yeah.
staffing?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even pay my phone bill years ago?
so,
No, I'm just
I
laughing.
mean, technically, operating costs, any event expenses, but typically try to fall under the categories. We feel more comfortable when it's, you know, like banners, advertising,
Right.
radio spots, those type of things.
Or,
so of the LTAC budget, is it fair to say that this would, their total ask would represent upwards of 20%?
and then also
And went fifth.
BCBs, I'd like to hear what their percent is. I mean,
If you took the 4 separate events.
Yeah, if you took it.
combined.
About 20. You know, I definitely wouldn't mind have Blake coming in, just to kind of give us an update and brief on how he sees this next year going. I don't really get to see him that much, and I blame myself because I don't get to always make the events, you know. But he might want to bring us up to speed and just tell us, you know, what he's got on deck for 23, because
I would agree.
I'd like to hear about it, because the next one is the South Sound Barbecue Festival for 20.
right,
So let me make sure I capture what the committee wants. So it sounds like we want to invite the Lacey Chamber on the first issue, which is the 70,000, which is the profile and visitor center.
Right, which would probably also, you know, incorporate, you know, the next one, which is the South Sound Barbecue Festival. The one after that is the Winter Sip, Savor and Shop. That's them as well. And then the one after that is the Golf Classic. That's them as well. Correct. So that's 4 of them
right.
that we could talk about. And I have no doubt, honestly, I even though sometimes I don't get to go to the event, I get to hear about the event. Yeah, let's invite Blake in and just
Yeah,
kind of hang with Blake for,
So any
10
specific
minutes.
questions other than maybe
Yeah.
just walk through?
yeah, well, I guess my question to the group is, I would like to hear specifically about Discover Lacey and where they're at with that.
okay, sure.
Because that's a $20,000 piece that we gave them, and I don't know that I see that much going on with Discover Lacey, and maybe I'm not looking in the right spots. I don't know.
Well, in addition to that, I mean, how is that working with Experience Lacey and Beyond, right?
Exactly. So we've got them highlighting Lacey now more. And we've got this Discover Lacey. And I think that was, somebody help me if I'm wrong, was started up because we weren't getting the exposure from the other Visitor and Convention Bureau,
Right.
BCB, or whatever you want to call it today.
So we doubled down,
And now
and now
we're,
let's see
find
how our
out.
double down
Yeah.
is going.
Right.
Yeah.
And as far as the barbecue festival, with the ask of 20,000, that's up. That's a one-day festival.
Mhm.
There are many one-day festivals that we don't even support at that amount.
Right.
And I think it's, for a one-day festival, that's a big ask.
Well, how far up is it? It looks
Yeah,
like it's 20 this year. If I remember last year, was it
18, I think,
15, 18?
15, and we
18
used
for
to,
2022.
yeah,
So.
and it used to be 15.
5,000 update.
Two.
No,
2,000.
two.
Okay.
Two, but it was a 3,000 update just a year ago, I think, and I mean, it's hard for me to understand how just because the money's there, that money is there to spread around for everybody.
Yeah.
And we have a one-day festival, the Bruce Bots and Bands asking for only 5,000.
Right. So,
So it just doesn't seem,
because they're selling barbecue, right? They're not giving it away.
yeah,
Like
no, they.
like the Masons did.
Yeah, no, they're successful, but when do you stop that? And takes me back to the Mushroom Festival. They wanted 25 and we used to give them 25,000 every year for a one-day festival. That to me is just. And here I was doing fun fair for 9,000
Hmm,
for 2 days.
right.
I just think we need to kind of keep that in the forefront.
Yeah. Are your I guess how streamlined is your
Right,
operation?
right. And
Right.
you're just asking because I don't know.
Well,
Okay.
they specifically asked for this increase because it's grown in attendance. With that, the inflation that they've experienced and large increases in market and rental printing expenses.
So
Question
printing is,
number 16, as Justice asks, tells us why.
Yeah,
But
but
yes,
where,
I still see where you're coming from.
yeah,
One, here's Fun Fair that asked for $9,000.
with this was that
Years
before,
ago.
yeah, and they were getting, so it just seems to me like there needs to be some correlation with how many days the festival is and the amount of money we're
And not-
expending on them.
Not to mention, but according to them, 500 people are coming out of town versus 19,000, if I'm reading this correctly, that are in town that are coming to this. So
I don't know how they thinking with that many
so
people.
24,000 people are coming?
no, it
Oh,
said
sorry.
estimated 19,000.
Yeah.
Of those 19,000, sounds like 500 drive in from 50 miles or more. So it seems to me that
That's huge.
it's a more draw internally in town versus the whole point is heads and beds, getting people from out of town to come to this event. So
Isn't that more people than the 3rd of July, Rainier Vista?
And it's more than we say for 2 days of Fun Fair, of which we used to track them coming in by a strip, but now they come from all over because our footprint has shrunk at Fun Fair. And it's so really hard. So when you don't sell tickets, it's really hard to tell. It's
Oh, yeah.
extremely hard to tell. I mean, we go and do counts all the time and stuff, but it's just a guesstimate.
Yeah, maybe we can bring Blake in and. he can-
Yeah, I want.
Yeah, I
So just kind of give us an update on.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Chad?
I just like an update in general. I think we have an opportunity to get a little update on each one of the things that Blake is, asking for
Mhm.
funds for. Specifically, I'd like to know for barbecue, I'd like to know, give us some more feedback about how he could use this increase of money to pull in more than 500 people from out of town. Because to me, again, it just seems to me that the whole purpose of this program is to get people from out of town to come to events. Not saying that we don't value our constituents in Thurston or in Lacey, but it's a huge ask for
Mhm.
pulling for 500 people that you're pulling funds for. So
All right, well,
That's a huge
yeah,
extra
let's
one.
invite Blake in for an update. I'd love to hear from him because some of these events, like the South Sound Barbecue Festival, I believe that takes place in Hunter Park.
I believe you're right. Yeah,
And-
it looked successful last year. So-
Yeah,
or this
yeah.
last couple months ago.
You see it and the park is full. and it looks nice and everything like that. And I can imagine, you know, some increase in cost, but I'm wondering if, you know, if it's been going on so long, is there a point where it's going to be, you know, self-funded, self-sustained?
No.
Yeah, probably not.
And is this one of the donations, ones that he has a charitable group that gets money from?
No, I don't think the chamber. I don't think
Okay.
it's a chamber.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
I know it's an opportunity for a lot of vendors to come together and sell their product.
Yeah, and one thing I really like is that he does speak to the fact that they use all local businesses to do for supplies, and I think that's awesome because it gives back into, the money stays within our community rather than going to some big box store or whatever not. So,
but see, their total budget is 36,000 and they're asking for half of that. Or more than half of that
Yeah, well,
for, from lodging tax. I don't know.
So this is, let me see if I'm capturing the sentiment of the committee. So obviously, we're gonna bring in the chamber. They could speak to all 4 applications, specifically on the chamber profile and visitor center. We'd like to know how you coordinate with BCB, how it complements one another. We're also gonna ask on the barbecue festival for the increase. How will that bring in more out-of-town visitors? And then maybe some other general overview of the other 2. Is that-
Yeah. Yes, and specifically, Scott, question 12, identify your program's top 5 sources of revenue. Number 2 is events, and it's $450,000. So this, to me, is that why are they asking for money if they make $450,000? That seems to me that they could, I mean, is that for all programs or just this program specifically?
That's a good question, because that also, you know, makes me think, you know, do you have a balance sheet available to, you know, and maybe that's none of our business, but I'm just, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking 450 is nice.
Yeah,
You know, and so it looks like there's space for, anyway,
yeah.
I don't, the statement of retained earnings, I just want an update on your.
Yeah, and it does look like that 450 is on question 12 for every one of their,
Mhm, yeah.
so. But I would like, I mean, the applications should speak to this event, like this, that's my understanding that
Mhm.
I'm applying for funding for this event. We should have event information related to this specific
Specific event,
ask,
Yeah,
not,
overall,
Organizational wide,
Right.
yeah, I think that's what.
Yeah.
How was answered.
right.
You're right.
Okay, so then does that give us the ability to forego the next 3 until, so that we can, because we'll be asking
There's
you
the-
clarification on all 4
so
technically.
Scott, I could revise my question then, which would be on number 12, I'd like to see the breakdown specifically to each application, not the organization as a whole. That would satisfy me of getting that information, excuse me, for all of these. And yes, I'm with you, we could forego each.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll bring us. And here's the thing, look, I guess my question is, we need to get through every single one of these in this seating, because we're interviewing.
Right.
the
We do,
following
because we need to know who we're gonna invite on the 23rd, and that will help you make your final decisions for our last meeting on the 30th.
Okay, gotcha. So
And I think we can make it today.
I think so too.
We
Um,
just- yeah.
So the next one is Winterfest Sips. No, that's
Yep, that's
also those guys.
For the Juneteenth is the next one.
The Golf Classic is theirs as well.
They
Okay.
show most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge.
Oh, I have Juneteenth Festival.
Same,
Yeah, right.
he's quoting the
Oh, sorry.
sponsor.
The same.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about the event, which is the same.
Mhm.
Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, look, I got Juneteenth as well.
Okay, nice. I'm reading tabs. So,
Yeah,
okay, that sounds like a musician thing, doesn't it?
Yes, totally.
Okay, so most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Washington is putting on a Juneteenth festival and asking for $10,000. Did any of you guys get to go to
I
this?
did. I did.
Okay, I got to go
Mhm,
and the barbecue was amazing.
mhm.
The setup was really nice. And I didn't realize that they had been doing this for 40 years
Wow, okay.
without even asking us for anything.
Right.
And in this case, it looks like they may be asking us to just cover the cost of the free food they give away. Because I went back twice.
Yeah.
The barbecue was, you were there, right?
I didn't get barbecue.
You
You
just kind
didn't?
of stood there. I went twice. I got yours.
Oh,
Joking.
no,
Yeah, he just kind of stood there all executive like and, making conversation with leaders and, how Scott does.
yeah,
I
exactly.
was engaging,
What-
I was engaging the community.
He was engaging.
And thank you for
He
that.
was.
What
He
is,
even talked to me.
Whoa,
wow, what is the increase, can I ask?
it's not an increase. This is their first ask in
Oh, okay.
40 years.
Okay, because it said on question number 15, or increase of funds, yes, so I was just curious.
Yeah.
You may
yeah,
have-
That's okay.
They've never asked before.
I don't, and question number 3 isn't answered, but I don't know that they have any metrics for,
Question 3 is answered, comfort in 5.
oh, sorry, let me, wait, glasses.
Okay,
Here we go.
So, yeah, and what is kind of interesting is because their top source of revenue is their own lodge. I mean, and they,
Yeah,
they've been pretty much funding this, I think, right?
yeah, they funded it for,
Yeah,
what year did they say they started doing this? 1982?
Yeah, it's been,
yeah.
does it say 41 years?
Yeah.
well,
And I don't think it's been in Lacey all those years, but
True, but I think the last.
they had to
yeah,
spread it
the
around.
last several years, yeah, it has.
It was where they could
Yeah.
get,
I think it's important that we support them.
yeah, I would say, I would love to have them come in and just talk to us and just say hi. This is our first ask.
Yeah.
Just welcome them and,
yeah. we'll call
Um,
you.
but I'm with you, Ruth. I'm a tentative fund. I think this also checks up. This also is very important for us to bring in new people, bring in, even though it's not a new event, it's new to us as far as a request.
Partnerships, yeah.
And I think that was one of our goals of this committee, that we set out to work with new folks and even if that's new to us folks. So I'm a tentative go.
So am I.
Mhm.
I'm glad they finally asked.
Oh, we do.
It looks like the projected attendance is 1,500. I'd say that's about accurate. And I imagine of those 1,500, you got a lot of out of towners because of who they are. They're one of several hundreds of lodges across the United States. So I imagine they're bringing in people,
Yeah.
putting some heads in beds.
Yeah, and I think that we partner with them, because I think it's not only they ask for money, but I think we're partnering with them. And that will help them bring additional people in.
I think so too. And honestly, they had it this year in Lacey, they've had it in Tumwater, they've had it in Olympia. I'd like this event to stay in Lacey.
Yeah. I
So,
agree.
establishing this new relationship, I think is a good thing.
Mhm.
Okay,
Totally agree.
so are we okay with funding this and having a conversation with them?
I'm a tentative go on the funding and I would love for them just to come in and say, hi, this is who we are.
I'm gonna go on the funding and I still would like Melvin to come and hang with us for a minute.
Agreed.
Yeah.
How you feeling, Susanna?
I agree.
I know. Here, we I forget you're over there.
Keep looking up.
So just yell at us. Okay. Got that, Scott?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, next we have Olympia Soccer Foundation.
Yep.
And I should have said this at the very beginning of the meeting. We got a late application in yesterday that we'll be discussing after we get through this.
Okay.
The ones that made it, so just FYI. Ole Soccer Foundation. US national soccer matches are going to be at the rack. Very exciting. And it looks like they're asking for 10. And they have overnight stays in the number of 350. And 200 of the 200 are staying with friends or family. But they're saying that stay for the day only travelers from 50 miles away could be upwards of 3,500 people.
Yeah, and it's multi-day, right?
Multi-day.
We fit 3,500 people at the rack, I guess on a multi-day. Scott, do you know, is the parking lot gonna be done by next
We'll be
summer?
building it next year.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still by default. And there's parking. We do use the overflow for the school at Squally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people walking across.
So
And
this,
then,
this is a new app,
This is brand new,
brand
correct?
new, and a 10K ask.
Mhm.
I would love to invite Ryan in
Mhm.
and talk about this a little bit more. I have no questions.
It's a pretty small ask for a multi-day
It-
event,
it is.
yeah.
And-
so-
This is a new relationship.
Yeah.
Which we were almost set aside 10% for.
And I mean, I think with multi-day events, you know, we know that people are gonna stop on their way to the rack. There's a number of food options, local and, you know, commercial, well, they're all commercial, but there's opportunity for, you know, putting dollars back into the economy
Yeah,
through that, I mean, that whole exit 111 corridor.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
am intentionally fully fund and just to invite him in to talk further.
Yeah, when you get off the freeway and you see Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, Safeway, you know, the whole gamut of. That's, the rack is just strategically located.
Yeah, I'm a little dive deeper. I'm a seasons teriyaki kind of guy and, you know, and the
Yeah.
ones that aren't right on that beaten path, like.
Yeah.
Skip past us for you and get into the strip mall more.
Trappers,
Yeah, trappers, those more.
So they say 100% of their budget is gonna be funded with lodging tax, and that's not accurate.
no, it's
So
not.
they need to kind of explain to us, anyway, some of their,
They may not have understood,
yeah, right, no,
so it
but
looks,
for a multi-day event.
Yep.
That's pretty reasonable.
it looks. Can't do the numbers right there. But it looks more like 18 to,
Say 25%.
is it 25? I like it.
You too.
So we'll invite Oli Soccer and just have a presentation, just sort of verbally explain what their goal is, their vision.
Yeah,
They use goals, just catch that,
yes, you did. Thank you, Scott.
soccer goal.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I didn't want to explain the joke.
Moving on, we are
No,
now,
it's Friday, right?
We're now at Polyfest.
Yeah.
And
My rim shot.
was this a late ad? Is that correct?
I believe this was the late ad came in the day after on
Yeah.
September 1st.
It was emailed.
And it was emailed. So,
So the decision point for the committee, this has happened in the past, it's be full disclosure. The committee has brought people in, even if they missed the deadline. The deputy mayor mentioned we did have another late entry, and this is with the American Lung Association.
Yep.
And it appears that they sent it through US Postal Service. And the note just says it was returned, and then they resent it, and then we got it this Monday.
Do we know if they
So-
contacted us to let us know that it was returned before just?
I'm gonna phone a friend. Nicole, can you do it?
hey, did you guys get
I did not receive anything from them saying that it was going to be late or that it had been returned.
So what date did they originally mail?
Okay, so I have a suggestion. All right,
Go ahead.
so we got a couple options. We can say, hey, you're late, no thanks. We can say, hey, we have 2 late entries. We can accept these late entries. At the end of this cycle, make a policy. And adhere to the policy and make sure that we share that policy with anybody and everybody who has sent an application. That, you know, late applications, because part of me feels for these people because our application process is what, 30 days? Okay. That is not a long time for a lot of different entities, right? And for some other entities who know our cycle, that is a long time. That's plenty of
Yeah,
time,
right.
right? So it looks like we need to make some kind of policy.
I agree.
And
We
stick
need
with it.
the Policy, yeah.
Yeah,
But I think what I'm having trouble with is when you're asking for money. I mean, most people are really on top of that.
yeah,
But a lot of these people are volunteers too, I know. But when there's dollars out there and it's a big part of your budget, boy, I'd be on that. So,
I went to Polyfest.
yeah,
I didn't go to the bike event,
Right.
right? I'm a little too out of shape for that. But I thought about it. Hopefully that's enough. I like their event. I like both of those events. I like what they do for the city
right.
and I like the crowds that they draw. And I like the fact that, you know, people go there, they have a great time. I have not heard any complaints about either.
Right.
In the Polyfest one, that one was like multi-location, was it?
It was at the rack.
It was at the rack, and then there was another thing that was at like this church on Pacific that I went to. I guess we got,
Oh, you're right. They had a kickoff the night before.
yeah,
And then they did like a special invite and then they
Oh.
did their event at the rack the next day.
yeah, they really
No,
worked hard to, you know, and at the kickoff, it was a pretty decent deal.
so my thing is late is late, whether it's 1 day or 10 days. You know,
Yeah.
it's late is late. So I think we do need to set a policy that no, from henceforward, we're not gonna accept any. I don't care who,
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's the city people, or I don't care who it is. I
And they
mean,
don't realize that it creates additional work.
right,
Right,
right. And if you want money, you're gonna be on time.
right. And so we have to make concessions on this side.
So if we make concessions for one, we gotta do both of them.
I know.
Yeah, that's, can I ask a question about Polyfest? Is this an increase of just 3K from last time? Were they 10,000 originally?
They were 10,000.
Okay, so it's an upgrade of 3.
I remember the first time they came in, I think they came to a city council meeting.
Correct.
You remember that?
Yep.
And I think they were just asking for you know, the space to be donated,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so at that point, the space, I'm not sure what the cost was for the space at the time, but it looks like I saw somebody who it looked like they said, hey, to get the rack, it's 10K. And I think it was the previous application. And they were saying, so, and I don't know the cost of the rack for the day.
Yeah, for a single event like this, it shouldn't be more than, I mean, depending on hours, I don't think it's more than $300 to $500.
Oh, is that right?
I think if it's soccer, they're probably doing multiple fields and that's where that becomes more expensive.
Okay, so that's,
Yeah.
gotcha, they're using the fields, they have full-time employees out there doing garbage and whatnot.
Yep.
Then maintenance comes in afterwards and. All right,
Okay,
so,
The question I guess I would have for the committee, so do you want to invite Polyfest back? Do you want to make a funding decision or what's the direction of the committee?
Ruth, you can go first.
I want answers about the additional funding.
Okay.
You know, because here again, we're at a 1-day festival and we're gonna start creeping up.
Yeah.
So what is that, 3,000 for?
Yeah.
Additional 3,000.
And unfortunately, it's not answered in the application.
Yeah, is there gonna be a jump house I can get in there,
Yeah.
trampolines? Something like that.
Yeah.
I would second that. I'm also okay with accepting both late applications on the caveat that we put in a note moving forward, creating a guideline, a policy has consequences. And we're not, we won't accept them.
Yep.
And I think, I have a hard time because in the application, it says questions. And there's Nicole's information right there, with a phone number and an email. And if I were this individual that got one sent back and you're asking for funding, I would have called and I would have emailed Nicole to say, yo, this got returned. We're sending it back to you. I probably wouldn't say, yo, it got returned, but I would inform her and then let her know when it's coming in. So then that way, because it looks like it was sent certified. So that way, you know, that Nicole could have told us, hey, we've got one more coming in. They contacted me ahead of time. This is kind of our situation, or whatever, why it got rejected or whatnot. But I don't like the idea. We're getting into a slippery slope if we start just, oh yeah, everybody's past the deadline. And we're just
Right.
accepting them.
Anything goes, whatever.
If it was me and I was asking for that kind of money and that it was a big impact on my budget, I'd have been on that phone, I'd have been nervous, I'd have been, my heart would have sunk, you know, but anyway,
Yeah. So somehow we have to convince people that,
big red
or lack
letters.
of better way to say it, we mean business.
Yeah, big bold red letters.
Yeah, do not be late, because it causes the committee.
Or you'll be rejected, you know.
But I would love to see Isaiah come in and just tell us where he's at with the event and talk about that $3,000 increase. I don't have any further questions.
Yeah.
I don't think 3K is gonna break the budget.
No, it's not, but as I'm saying is we're moving these one-day festivals up to.
It sounds like, to me, we want, you know, we're seeing a lot of increases.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we kind of want to know where those increases are going. You know, are they going to, who's the back end beneficiary
Right.
of the additional dollars that we're putting out?
Mhm.
Because I don't, you know, for a while there, you know, last year people were like, well, you know, insurance is up and costs are up. Okay, insurance and costs, where are these costs? And so I think one or two people have kind of outlined some of their additional costs, but you're right. I'd like to hear from them.
Yeah. Okay.
So question 1B would need to be answered. There's no B, but it's the bottom half of question 1.
And so with these guys, it looks like they're bringing people in overnight, but they don't know where.
And question 12, it's $10 for LTAC. I'm assuming that's 10K, not $10.
Well, the rest of it is in thousands, but yeah, you're right. Lieutenant's 5,000 each. I like that. That's at 95% of their budget. So, no, that's right. But I do believe that we can all agree that their event is a community draw.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Kringle Market Festival. This will be taking place at the Thurston County Fairground. Spouses Club of Lewis McCord. I wonder if this is just where they could find space at the time, or there's something at the fairground that they need.
Is this a new applicant?
It is, it looks like
Right.
it, yeah.
So I think they get an automatic, come on in,
Right.
let's talk.
Right? Let's talk. Overnight stay. They put it 800. So it looks like a military-based group bringing in, drawing in. an estimate of 800 people. 250 staying with friends or family. More than 50 miles, 1,000 people.
And since this is joint JBLM, are they in contact with our folk to bring more activities down here, like you were talking about last time?
Yeah, I don't know if they're in contact with Colonel Wardwell's group.
But that
But
that
that
might
would
be a
be-
good connection to,
Yeah, and also, are they with WMWR or what other affiliation or association they have on the post? Yeah, I'd love to talk to these guys.
Yeah, I would too.
I think it's great.
Me too.
And it's a late August event. It's called Chris Kringle.
No, it's November.
Okay, because I was looking at, it says
Yeah.
August 29th.
Oh, this is on page 3.
Well, then-
It says dates of event 18th and 19th.
I think that's when I applied.
Projected attendance 6,000.
So they're gonna bring 6,000 people to Thurston County just before Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
to the Thurston County Fairgrounds. To do what?
I think this is like a traditional Christmas market event like in Germany.
Oh,
So you're probably having, you know, what do you call it? Christmas tree decorations,
Right.
crafts. There's type of thing, that type of atmosphere.
Get off the post and do something away from the base or do something with other
Variety
military
of
people.
food and vendors over the multi-day.
There'll be, looks like kids, inflatables and games as part of the event or the festival.
There's a run, it sounds like. Would be a major draw.
Yeah, I would love to hear more, a little bit more
Yeah.
about their event.
Yeah.
It looks like their total budget is 18,000
Right.
and 9,500 is 50% of that. Just kidding.
Mhm.
I'm definitely a tentative yes on this. I'd like to talk to
Right.
Karen.
I agree.
I'd love to meet her. Just, get a new relationship up and running.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, I would agree.
Bring those people to Lacey. Yep.
And that brings us to
Some Black Birdie.
Sound Block Party. I didn't get to go.
I did not either. It looked very busy. I drove by, went boating one day and I knew of people that went, and said it was crowded and it was a good time. What did we fund them last time?
We didn't.
We did not.
We said we would fund them if they came to Lacey, and I think we should still take that stance because
The reason why I'm asking is says number 4 and 12.4. One of their top revenue sources was Lacey for 15,000.
that's because that's what they're asking us.
Yeah, they wanted it.
Right,
Yeah,
but wouldn't that be the revenue sources if it was awarded?
Correct. They're just, yeah,
they're
they're projecting.
projecting that this next year, they're gonna get that from us. And it'd be cool if they could have a stage 2 or 3 or something in Lacey. An extension of what they've got going on somewhere in Lacey.
That's-
But I'm not into funding an
So-
event that's not in Lacey like that.
So it's a $250,000 event. See what kind of revenue it generates here.
Ticket sales is our primary, 133,000.
So it looks like they break even or,
Now they have 243,000 for.
243, but it looks
Yeah.
like.
So, yeah, it looks like it's $10,000, just under 10,000 in revenue without the city of Lacey's projected funding.
Okay.
If you take line 12.4 out, it's about $10,000.
See 60, it's 120 plus 133, it's 153.
Yeah, 253.
Yeah, it's at 253 and it costs them 243. So it's a lot to do for 10K. So if you're doing all that for 10K, that means you're really doing it for the fun of it. Because you spent more than 10K in energy making this happen.
I'm still in the mindset of I'd like to, we have lots of room in person, like of Lacey.
We do.
I would eventually like to see like the Great Cuyo, like this might be a great spot for that. Because we'll have parking, we'll have, things out there that necessarily the port won't. The only thing that we won't have that the port has is water. Small plans, but
Well, and even if they want to do an extension of what they've got going on down at the port and have another venue out in Lacey, I'm for that, but I'm not for.
or could we have it at the Thurston County Fairgrounds? I mean,
It's still a bit out of our control since that's a county venue,
right,
but
oh, that's true.
maybe this is what happened last time. It seems like if the committee wants to pursue it, we need to find out if they're willing to do a location in Lacey. If that is a stipulation of the committee. Last year when we explored this, they were unable to make that commitment. And therefore that money is probably gonna go back. Well, we'll go back into the general, not the general fund, but the LTAC fund.
So my question would be, just that, if you were to find a Lacey venue or do an extension, I mean, I understand as an event director, I understand that may not be feasible to secure a second venue for music. I mean, it might be very difficult to do satellite events and then to promote people to go to different locations. So that's where I would be at, is if you're willing to do that and you found a venue in Lacey, then I would be willing to fund it.
Right.
But I have a hard time with a port event. And there's no partnership for Lacey hotels. There's no room for, people might stop and get gas, but it's just a pass through, or they might stop and get dinner. But it's a pass through.
Well, last year when we talked to them, they said that, in subsequent years, they would consider Lacey as a location. And, if they have considered Lacey as a location, let's talk about how that consideration has gone.
Yeah.
And then, again, our mandate is to bring tourism to Lacey.
Right.
Which, always has to be our number one goal.
Mhm.
And so, maybe I actually called her after this process last year, and said, hey, we didn't fund you this year. But, here's our outline, here's our goals, here's what we have to adhere to. So, let's consider that for next year. And I remember calling her because I remember standing in the Walmart parking lot thinking, I really got to call this girl and say something. So I did call, and maybe we can pick up that conversation. If we can zoom her in, she can come in, whatever. We can pick up that conversation and see. But I know that in terms of venue, when you're downtown Olympia, you have a backdrop that you don't have here in Lacey. You have a surrounding businesses. You can probably get as loud as you want after a certain period of time. The only thing I see about our potential venue being the rack, it's surrounded by residential. And this kind of event happens from 4 PM till 10, 11 at night.
2 days in a row. Yeah.
Days in a row, live bands. And so, I don't know that we have a place like that in the city limits. And so I think that might be the difficult part of this question. Can you have it in Lacey? Well, I'd love to have it in Lacey. Your venue space is surrounded by residential, whereas Olympia's venue space is water on one side with the sun dropping into the water, and then businesses or a business buffer for at least half a mile before you get to any residential.
it might be good just for us to know
Yeah.
and that to push for, you know,
Yeah.
more venue flexibility space here in our area. As we
Absolutely.
start building, you know, work with the parks folks and say, hey, these are the kind of asks that we're getting. I mean, if there's a way to bridge the art park and recreation, you know, of Lacey to look at ideas for expanding venues, you know, so we can do these type of events here.
Yeah, totally. Especially if we had a baseball stadium at St. Martin's College.
Right. Or when we have one maybe by the rack someday.
So question only,
Question only.
okay,
Have you found a way to have it in Lacey?
You know, what is her outcome of any exploration of that?
Well, in addition to that, you know, the asking level and the actual funding level don't necessarily have to be the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we can
Right,
try to help. I'm not saying, you know,
I'm not saying it's a no-go at all. I'm not saying that I don't know that it would be the 15,000,
Right.
but I'm not saying no. I just wanna, like, we have continued conversations from last year. Let's see what those
Yeah.
are and let's kind of see what were their, you know, what were their outcomes from this year? What did they learn? What, you know, moving forward? And I want to help everyone. I want to, you know, let's help as much as we can, but we, like you said, we have to stay to our mission
we do.
of this committee, which is bringing tourism to Lacey. And how are we doing that?
And last year was their first year for this event, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so, and they spent, you know. I like the ambition a lot. I don't know if it's going to fit into our
Yes,
funding, but
right.
I love the ambition of
Right,
this
right.
group. Okay, so can we invite Kristen in?
yeah, I was trying to clarify, is it just a question only like we did with Capital Lake Fair, or is it an actual invite?
We want to see if there's a possibility they can have the venue here so we can. We'd love to.
well, what she's done to explore that.
Yeah, and how things turned out last year, like,
Right.
did you put heads in beds?
Right.
If so, do you know how many? And I think, you know. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Washington Center for the Performing Arts.
It's not an increase. So,
It is not an increase, it is. Yeah, nice glossy they got.
yeah,
Wow,
that is.
Yeah, they did a good job.
huh. Somebody did pretty good.
I don't have a problem with this application.
So as a committee, I don't remember them ever sending us any tickets. Most logos. Did you get any tickets?
No,
Any?
I do
Scott,
get,
did you
I-
see anything?
I do.
So they don't play favorites. There's no.
Right, and nor should they.
Yeah, that's right.
For the record, no, it's not how we're making decisions.
I'm not saying bribery ticket, like gratitude ticket, or you know, hey, just. No, you're right, you're right. That is, that I,
But that doesn't happen with, just for the record, that doesn't happen with any, I mean, Block Fest or Poly Fest. I've never received any tickets.
I've
to
never
any of
received any
these,
tickets
so
either. So we all have clean hands.
Yeah,
The record state.
I can't even, when I was selling to the state, I couldn't even buy customers a cup of coffee.
I can give up to a $25 gift without the OIC
Okay.
showing up at my door.
Okay,
That's it.
so, anyway, yeah, no, I think this, I don't see any problems with that.
Yeah. So let's take a look at their,
So is that a tentative funding?
that is a tentative funding. It's,
That is,
we are 1.3%
mhm,
of their budget
right.
with 1,100 people
Mhm.
and 1,500 non-hotel people. Their attendance is somewhere in the neighborhood of 76,000 people. I imagine that's annual.
Permission to speak.
Mhm.
For the record, I work there. We have on a non-COVID year, roughly 100 to 115,000 that come from theirs. And that's for everything. That's for all meetings, that's for ticketed and non-ticketed events.
When a venue like this sells tickets and the debit card is used or the credit card is used, then the zip code goes in there. Is that information that can be tracked by the venue, or is that strictly for Visa, MasterCard?
We have all of that. We know exactly where our sales are coming from.
Okay.
And their volunteers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we know our volunteer program. We know how many businesses we work with in the Lacey. We know how many volunteers are coming from Lacey. We know how many tickets are sold. We can pull, there is reports that we can pull all of them.
Even from the schools, I remember it was, you guys even knew what schools they went to.
Right.
And OJP, I'm very happy to say is coming back this year, so Olympia junior programs. And so it'll be so nice to have student energy back in the building after it's been missed for 2 years. The excitement of the littles coming in is huge. Most of the time, it's their first time coming into a venue, and a lot of times I have seen it from time to time where kids go home and they tell their parents, and then their parents end up buying tickets, for a show coming up or whatnot. And it's really exciting when you stand in the lobby and hear students say, I was here last week for a show, and and then they come in. It's
And
just,
some of those kids, it's only $10 experience.
yeah. And we also hear a lot where people, I haven't been in the venue for 10 years, or, I went to OJP when I was younger. And so it brings them back into the facility as well.
Gotcha. You guys got a park right across the street.
We do.
Well, all right. So if we fund this one, last week we had Troy keeping track of, dollar amounts. So I'm not asking you to do that. I just,
You've lost confidence.
oh, no, I mean, I know your mind is a steel trap, but if you,
Would you like to
And
have
it's
a,
a
would you,
calculator
I
on
mean,
top
just
of
out of curiosity, would you like a running total?
please, I think the rest of the committee would like to hear it too.
We invoke Troy here, so you've tentatively committed $337,500. That would leave you about $195,000 and change left.
Right. Okay,
But
well then,
so
doesn't change anything for me, but
But it's information.
it's good to
right?
know. Scott,
just try over here.
Yeah.
okay, so I think we're in agreement that the Washington Center is now back up and running. The remodel,
Yeah, the next application, you mean?
Yeah, that is the next one.
is that the next one?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's not jump ahead of ourselves. So are we in favor?
I can answer.
Yes.
questions, but I have to abstain. from
Yeah,
it.
right.
Susan said.
Suzanne, are you good?
Yeah.
Yes.
Suzanne says yes. Bruce says yes. I say yes. And I think we've got our questions answered. That's nice. Next, we have the Washington Center. This ask is $250. And I think this is a one-time ask.
Mhm.
And this is for. Well, let's hear about what this is for.
Well, I think because I went to an event that was asking for some donations to finish up their project.
Mhm.
And so I think it's what they've fallen short of for their remodel. But I don't know what other efforts they've made since then, because I thought it was 190-some thousand or something that they were short, but maybe my figures were wrong.
But if you look at the supplemental information, it was an $8.8 million capital campaign.
Yep.
They essentially have, I think, completed phase 1. They're now working on phase 2. And this is to, I guess, direct dollars at the interior upgrade. So there's the lobby and the concessions.
Front of the house.
Yep, also the chairs, or seating, excuse me, and then also carpet.
And it's everything that the patron will experience minus the bathrooms. There just wasn't enough in the overall budget to complete the bathrooms. Once you know, as we have all probably been through home remodels, once you start talking plumbing, and, you know, fixtures and updating, the restrooms gets very expensive. So that was just something that we could not commit to for
So
this remodel.
this accounts for 2.8% of their budget. It looks like the city of Olympia has committed to 3.974 million. And Department of Commerce for 2 million. And there's a trust and a couple of cities in there behind that. It looks like so in this, it's mostly an interior situation, right? Because I remember the back of house was,
Phase one.
yeah, and that was 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Was it?
We, yes and no, we just finished it this last year.
Okay,
So, yeah, we just completed phase one.
and I had worked in back, I went to back of house and, you know,
Yeah.
loaded in and loaded out and yeah, it wasn't quite up to date. And I'd love to see what it looks like now.
It's amazing. Anytime you want to come through, we can make that happen.
Okay, and now we're looking at front of house, which is the, you know, where all the people, the visitors see, and I remember that too. And you know, there's not a bad seat in there. It's just not a bad seat in that place. The seats weren't all that nice, but there's not a bad one in terms of viewing the stage.
And we actually increased our seating. We were at 983 and we're at 107 right now. So we increased, and we didn't decrease comfort. We actually added, we had 19-inch, 20-inch and 21-inch seats. And we have added a 22-inch seat as well. And we gave tools to our box office. So when a patron calls and, you know, there are questions from time to time that say, hey, do you have any seats that are a little bit bigger? Or, you know, we actually have a map that shows that. So we can say, why, absolutely, we have, you know, this section or this section has, you know, wider seats available. So we're really looking at accommodating a lot more. And with the seating, it was a huge push to make sure our ADA needs were compliant. So we actually have space for ADA and for their companions. So it was a huge, you know, it was a huge focus. We really listened to our constituents and the in the performing arts world and the patrons and what their feedback was. So we felt like we had enough information to move forward to make sure that we captured as many people's needs into this space, because it's such a community treasure for, you know, Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater. I mean, that is our performing arts venue. So
It must have been interesting going to a capital campaign right as a pandemic hit, but also at the same time, it's like, well, nobody's gonna be here, so, you know, what a better time to do it. Very interesting how that came together.
it would have been nice to be able to do our project when we were closed, but the funding wasn't there. We weren't ready to take on that ask at all in one time. So, because I mean, we were dark for 409 days. I mean, it would have been great to be able to do the entire project while we're closed, and then, you know, come out of, I'm not post-pandemic, but more of a where the world is opening up again, and then be like, surprise, here's a brand new venue. We just weren't at a space where we could do that.
Do you guys own that building outright?
No, the city of Olympia owns that building. We are a long-term renter or a
Okay.
long-term leaser.
Hence their contribution to prevent.
And they've been wonderful to work with. They have really helped out quite a bit. They you know, they are responsible for what makes the building a place that we can live in. And then the Washington Center, as the nonprofit, is responsible for anything that makes it a theater. So the chairs, the seating, that is the Washington Center. You know, the rigging, the lighting, the soft goods, which are the curtains, any of the patron spaces, as far as like even down to the carpeting, that's on us to make sure that that's.
So you get the shell.
So we get the shell from them. We get the interior. So any in tenant improvements, that's all on us. So.
Nice.
So you're still shy this amount of money. Is that what I'm hearing you say then?
Correct.
Yeah.
And these will be dollars that you guys have already been, because you guys have already started this.
Yeah, we take possession on October 15th again, so with about 2 weeks of punch lists, so we will be moving back in, like I was telling a group of people today right before I got here. Every day the building's changing. Today I found carpet is starting to be laid down in the facility, so that was exciting. I had to dodge my way around carpet this morning to get into the building, so yeah, so it's going to be complete and ready by November 3rd for November 4th show, but we still have the funding aspect to pay off. I mean, we still have to pay the bridge loan and everything else, so there's still finances out there.
So these truly are reimbursement dollars. You guys will be using these to reimburse contractors that have come out. and
So
done work.
years ago, did the city, how did we? I can remember this years ago, something about the Performing Arts Center that, did we fund them through lodging tax for something like this? Or didn't we put some money into the original?
So I think that happened before I got here, but I
Yeah.
do believe there was a contribution, a capital
Yeah,
contribution
right.
by the city, and that's how we end up with the 2 free days. And that's how we've been that sort of model is
Right.
recognition of that.
2 free days.
Yeah,
Tickets?
yeah.
Well, no, for the
space.
community, so
Oh.
we'd offer basically, and I say 2 free days, it's just the rental of the facility, they still have to pay for the other like staffing and all the other stuff too, but
Huh.
it's a kind of a recognition that we contributed to it, it's a benefit to the community, and that's where the nonprofits, submit to the community relations committee and ask for free days and what they're going to do. It's typically a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Okay, and then council ends up awarding those 2 days.
Gotcha.
And then they work with us to get that on the calendar.
Right.
Yeah, it has to be a mutually agreeable day, and
Right.
so we are actually working with 2 recipients right now, so that the city council has awarded. So I've been working with Nicole to get those folks into the building.
Awesome. I remember when this was first brought to us, and the council seemed to definitely be agreeable to this ask. It was originally asked out of cycle. And after a lot of discussion, we said, hey, this needs to be in cycle
Right.
for the ask, but yes, we would like to do this.
So is there any way we can split that request from lodging tax money to Lacey?
General.
Yeah, general fund. Is there any, or
That
Some-
option was also brought to the table. I'll let Scott speak to it.
Yeah, that was discussed. My recommendation council at the time that this would be more appropriate for LTAC, just because we're trying to be mindful, we're trying to protect our reserves in the general fund, and we have more obligations than we can account for, even with the reserves that we do have.
the reason I'm asking that is, I know we've got the museum coming up. I mean, we've got,
Police station.
yeah, police station. So that's why I was kind of throwing that out there.
Sure. Right.
And I don't think those would, I don't know about the museum would qualify, well, they would qualify for lodging tax, but not the police station.
True. And that's why, to some degree, that's
Yeah.
why we need the reserves for the police station.
Right,
One of the things that I'm, looking at in this cycle is that, yeah, we're probably gonna spend a lot in this cycle.
Yeah.
And we're just coming out of a situation where everybody was cooped up for a couple of years. And, I see them in the community, they're out having a good time right now, and we want to build on that for this next upcoming year. So while we are gonna be spending a lot on, well, I won't say spending a lot on this cycle, this cycle is gonna produce more events than previous cycles. And of course, if we're gonna be doing more, it's probably gonna cost us a little bit more. And so we'll be wanting to, we may dip into our reserves, we're gonna have
right.
to make this cycle fund in a way that's going to hopefully, really bring the city out of their homes into event spaces, connecting with one another. And so
I'll add to that here in a second, so.
So that's why I'm looking at stuff like this and with these guys adding additional seats, and I know that as a musician, when you get to go play in that newer theater, it's kind of nice, So all I'm really saying is, yeah, this cycle may be bigger asks and it may be a little more robust. We may have to go and do some,
Creative,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think when we see the outcome in 2023, I think we'll be happy with it.
I think the return is also something to measure going into this. We have 18 artistic partners that call the Washington Center home. And when we add technology to the facility, so like backstage, the rigging, these groups that are mainly nonprofits are getting exposed to the most up-to-date technology that is in the performing arts region. One of our technicians works all up and down the I-5 corridor and said we actually have a more robust sound system than even the theaters that he works for up in Seattle, like the Paramount, the WAMU. We have a better sound system than some of these other bigger theater venues. And these are artistic partners and students that work in the artistic partners get to use that equipment and free. There's not a charge. Also with this lobby remodel, we are adding a bunch of new technology that we have never had before. So they get exposed to those elements, which I think are really important for us as a community to stay active and actually staying ahead of the curve when it comes time to making sure that we have the most state-of-the-art facilities. So I think that's something that we need to keep in mind as well. So
So how are we gonna juggle all this money that's asked for us? And I'm still unclear as to what we've got in reserves and what's earmarked for whatever.
Sure. So I would look at this as, this is a capital request separate from your operating
Right,
request.
right.
So you're working currently right now as we began this process of $533,000 for operating. Troy, at last meeting, we
So
did talk.
we, for what now, did you say?
So for operating, we have $530,000 plus dollars. So that's your pot of money you're working in with all
Right.
these operating requests. This is unique in a sense, and we've done this like with, if we had to replace a field with a rack, we treat that as a capital request, not to compete with
Right.
the operating request. So fund balance, and we went through this, even after we look at our reserves, we have a synthetic field in there and a 2-month operating reserve, there's $357,000. So if you wanted to fund this capital request, that would still leave you with $157,000 to cover any additional operating issues. So those are unencumbered reserves right now.
Does that include the wayfinder signs and whatever there was? on there?
That is still accounted for. So
Yeah, okay.
even after, again, we've committed to reserves for the 2022, that's not yet obviously exhausted yet. We have the wayfinding for 50,000, we have the rack for 500,000, and we have a 2-month operating reserve. So that has all been accounted for. If you deduct all of that, you still have $357,000
Oh.
left over.
and what a potential of 15,000 coming back from the block party event
True.
that didn't come in. So
Correct.
there's
There'll be
another
more.
$15,000 coming in back in from this year.
Right.
So I'm saying if the committee wanted to fund the capital request, you could, and you'd still have $157,000 plus whatever comes in to deal with the 2023 operating request for capital. I'm sorry, for LTAC dollars.
And the reserves that we have for the synthetic field and all those things just remain intact.
Correct.
So I'm willing to fund them for something, but I'm still kind of confused about, I know that they've been out doing some fundraising. So is it still the 250,000 that they're still needing? Is that still the current need?
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
stopping to fundraise. We're gonna continue because there's a couple projects that are not on this cycle. We still have blinds. There's a $50,000 project for blinds, and then we want a marquee. And the marquee, I can't remember the dollar amount for the marquee, but those projects are on hold right now. So if we were to,
You still have.
so we absolutely still have, we have 2 big projects that are on hold right now. Those will be looking at the future. We don't want to also spend what we don't have. We need to make sure that we can close up and operate the venue as a venue. And so there are a couple things that are on the outskirts that aren't gonna stop a performance from happening, but we want to complete those.
So,
So
okay. So from the inside out, you said that the bathrooms are not,
the bathrooms are on a schedule. The city of Olympia owns 14 buildings, I believe. And so we have to share the wealth with the 14 buildings. And I think they put it on I think it's 2 years out. I think they'll start looking at the bathrooms and redoing the bathrooms in about 2 years.
and that'll complete the entire
And that'll
inside.
complete the entire inside.
Right.
So
And then after that, you get a nice new marquee.
Yeah, and I think the marquee will probably happen next
Yeah.
spring. So, yeah, if the funding's available.
So with this funding request of 250,000, we still then get 2 or 3 days.
Yep.
With the, as we currently do. I'm just asking.
No, I
Yeah,
actually,
that's good.
I'm throwing a little bit audible. I would actually like to reinvent that program because I know it causes issues for us. I know it causes issues for the Washington Center. We get in this sort of weird situation where someone requests a day, they haven't really gone through the process. And then, we're trying to referee. I know Washington Center sometimes referee. If I had my druthers, quite frankly, I'd rather just have like 2 Lacey days, which would mean discounted tickets. I think that'd just be the most seamless thing. It better communicates the value to the community. Plus, if you're like, hey, this is, let's say September 10th is a Lacey day. Maybe you're inviting more Lacey residents who've never been part of the Washington Center. That just may be a better way to communicate that.
So Scott, I know that Jill's planning on revamping and visiting that whole cycle this next year. That's on her docket. Because I think there's opportunities to make win-wins for everybody. And yes, right now Lacey is a little bit different than Lacey or Olympia and Tumwater as far as their 2 days. And so she kind of wants to reformat that and revisit that as a whole. So I think that's a really good conversation to have or to bring that to the table. But I know that
I like the discount. idea.
I can,
Yeah.
BOGO.
yeah. I think there might be some opportunities. I can't speak and I won't speak for her,
Sure.
but I know that's on her radar to reformat that program.
And that's a conversation with council too, because I know council in the past has enjoyed the opportunity to be able to, give a free day to a nonprofit because it's a fundraising activity. But at the end of the day, I guess there's a cost benefit with that too. As it really meeting the need of what the intent was.
All right, well. Maybe we can put that on a future agenda. And maybe have that a little more, take a deeper dive and have a discussion about that. Maybe if Jill wouldn't mind talking about that, maybe something can happen with that.
So any direction on this capital request?
On this capital request,
Sure.
it is in cycle. It is, we are, I don't have to tell you guys the numbers. I like it. I hope it gets done and I would love to see them be able to pay, off the contractor and be done with their project. And I'm excited to see what it looks like in there. I've been in there so long,
Yeah.
but man, I remember just not a bad seat in the whole place.
Suzanne, do you have anything to say?
No, I don't.
It's almost lunchtime.
Yeah.
Suzanne, do you have food there?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I said, it's almost lunchtime. Do you have food there? I've never been to your hotel.
Yes, we're doing Celebrate Service Week, so the owners are treating us all week to lunch.
Oh, look at you.
I know, it's
Congrats.
awesome.
Yeah,
They're the
that's right.
best.
We might have to stop by.
I'm gonna go crash Suzanne's lunch. Okay,
Yeah, since it's been discussed that there is, you'd rather not take it out of the general fund. I think that we probably need to step up and do this.
we do.
Yeah.
I agree. So I think all of our questions were
Yeah.
answered.
Yeah.
And if at all possible, I don't know if the revamping of the program is something that needs to come here or needs to go to, the council or how that works.
Yeah, it'd probably be a joint conversation. I think if that'd be part of the discussion. If this is approved ultimately, how do we recognize the value of that capital investment?
So
Just
do
a-
we need to bring her in then to
I-
voice that, or
Can we put it on a council work session and maybe the council could entertain that? And then after, if the decision is, hey, let's take a second look, then we could.
I think probably the simplest way to do it, if, let's say, ultimately you approve this, you would say something, it'd be nice to revisit or revamp the program in recognition of the capital investment.
Mhm.
And then I'd give latitude for council and staff to work it out with Washington Performing Arts Center to figure out what's the best way to recognize this capital contribution.
So if they hammer it out and come out with something that's amicable, then bring it to a work session or bring it to the
Yeah, we
council.
just work on the policy.
Okay, well, it looks like we're all in favor.
Now, with the caveat, it still leaves us some excess, right?
Correct.
150,
Yep.
some.
Well, let's see
does.
how much the senior games are asking for. And that's our last one on here. The Washington State Senior Games.
So
You guys know that this is the longest running event in the history
it
of
brings
this
the most people, brings the most people. or
and
something.
brings the most people and pretty much asks for the least amount of dollars.
That's what I'm saying. See, that's why.
That is amazing.
Makes sense to me.
These people have their
Yeah.
act together.
Right, they do.
Yeah,
And that's what I like.
I like it too.
Seriously.
I like it too.
Yeah, and this is 15,000 and with what they bring into our community and running a month.
How many days is this event?
A month, it says it's running.
A month?
Well, it just says multi-day event and it runs through July 8th through August 7th. Probably not every day,
Right.
but
You
yeah,
do your event, you go walk the park for a couple
Yeah.
days, you come back for another session.
yeah,
So I think this one's kind of a no-brainer.
I think it is too.
I just have one question, number 3, other Olympia. It says,
That's where they want to stay at.
how, I don't know, it looks like it's cut off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they need to not to say that. Right?
It looks like most of their
When they're
people
applying
stay
for
with friends and
lazy.
family.
Right,
Yeah.
but if they could look at getting a block of rooms here instead of
Yeah,
Olympia.
Well, okay, so their event happens, I think, at the rack. I'm sorry, at the,
it happens all over.
yeah, I guess you're right. I've seen them at Rainier Vista.
Because I think at the Y, they come swim, I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
they have a pretty
yeah,
robust itinerary and kind of spread out.
right.
So I guess,
So I think they need to be mindful of the fact that they're applying for a Lacey funding, but they don't put other on there. And be mindful of this hotel situation. That's all I'm saying.
it looks like they're asking for 11% of their budget. And we are not the only ones they're asking. They're asking all of us.
Mhm.
You know, why don't I ever see Thurston County on here? Do they not, they don't have,
There was one application I saw at Thurston County LTAC, but they don't have much money, do they?
dude, you know, they got money. They even got some of our money.
So you're talking about like, why don't they show us like a top 5 revenue source?
Yeah.
I believe when we did that presentation, they do not have a hotel in unincorporated Thurston County. So they're not receiving LTAC dollars. I'd have to double check that, but if they do, it's either one hotel or it's non-existent.
Yeah, something
Alright.
makes me think that too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think their ask is very reasonable and for what they bring, it's not much.
Most people spend money in our communities.
Those people spend money.
So it's a tentative yes.
That's a tentative, that's an all the way yes for me.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's all the way yes for me.
So then back to the other application. And maybe it's just automatically that they come in because it was late. So we do have the Reach the Beach, Washington.
Well, that's the event that starts at the rack and they ride bicycles to the beach. Is that correct?
Mhm,
From the American Lung Association?
mhm.
And wasn't last year their first year with us?
Or the year 2019.
Was 19 their
I think it
first?
was- I think it
Was
was,
it?
I remember it being a new event. I think it was before the pandemic. though.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I think it has been going on for, maybe, I think it preceded the time that we funded that, but you're right.
Yeah. So one thing is they did their federal ID number, but they didn't, run it with state, they're nonprofit for the state.
Right.
Yeah, so that, they need to bring us that. And this is the one I was asking, because it says temporary staffing, and I didn't know that we paid. For staffing, but yes, we do. So,
Well,
anyway. I think it's a pretty fair ask.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
fair ask. I'd like to see him come in. Question number 12. 100, is it fundraising is only $125, sponsorships $25 and
Yeah, right.
registration's 10.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
No, it's gotta be 0, it's back there, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'm of the opinion if you're asking for money, that you're making sure that your stuff's dialed in, so.
So I didn't get to go to this event.
You did go?
Did not get to go to this event. And we've got like 5 minutes left, but. Okay, so basically. There's an arch
Mhm.
set up at the rack. Right? And from there, all the bicyclers bring their bicycles, unload them, get in line. Maybe they get a number or something like that, like the chip bibs that we use for running races and a t-shirt. And then they, take off from here and go to the beach. So where's the cost is what I'm trying to. I know it's not much they're asking for, let's be honest.
But their budget is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
175,000 or something. Am I just saying that off the top of my head?
yeah, I just 175, but where's,
So where does that, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Is it the fundraising is 125K and the sponsorship is
that
25K?
doesn't kind of make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Because, yeah, what they would,
So I'm not seeing the exact requests for dollars. I can only glean it by saying 2%. Is that your interpretation of the
their
application too?
request is for 5.
Yes, sir.
Where do you see that?
On the front.
Page
One.
Page 1.
But when you go to their $175,000,
Budget.
total budget for their event. Then I don't. So and this makes me wish I had gone to their event, so I could see, it in operation. It looks like they're saying. Also that they have 175 people coming
It's a
in.
lot of money for that kind of an event.
And
The budget is high.
so most of the people that are on a course oftentimes are volunteers, like when I was doing the 5K for TCCAT, I brought in all my volunteers and position them throughout the course. We had to pay for the city, police department to be present, for the city to put out stanchions and cones, and all these different things. This, if it goes from here to the beach, that's
Multi jurisdictions.
Yeah. So maybe that's where the cost is, because you have,
But it would be nice for them to explain it.
I'd love to hear an explanation about
I would
that.
too.
Okay, let's hear an explanation about that. Is that all right, Scott? We can.
Bring that back.
My fear in asking for all these explanations is that we have all these people converging on a Friday morning or afternoon into this place, scheduling them out. Hey, your time slot is here, your time slot is there. You got 5 minutes. Tell us why we give you 15 grand.
Well,
You know.
and we've done that in the past. I mean, we
It's
do
okay.
that, that's regularly. I mean, we've done that quite a bit.
Mhm.
And
We give them, yeah, it's like 8 minutes. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, it's 5-minute presentation and 3 minutes of question and answer. And then 2 minutes for us to make up our mind kind of on the back half.
So we're gonna have to look at this because my quick count is, I think we're over 10 people were invited back.
Okay.
And there's the rub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So then can you figure out how much each person gets in?
so we are bringing back Reach for the Beach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And I guess what specific questions you want for them?
well, we want to know, what I heard in this is there's a disconnect between.
How come your numbers don't add up?
Yeah. That is a great way to put it.
Period.
So it's interesting you think you make the perfect application. So I applaud the committee because you did make the perfect application. But as you read this, some people identify expenditures, they're almost treating that as that's an expenditure list,
Right.
not what you're supposed to be reimbursing the LTAC dollars for. Because that's supposed to help us know, okay, what are you gonna
Yeah,
use the LTAC
right.
dollars for? But they're treating it as their debit part of it. And then they're not either filling in zeros, or it's just an interesting influence of
We might
misinformation.
have to just clean that up for next cycle.
right.
But as it is now, You know, so I think what Scott is saying is we've created our own confusion.
Well, I think this is the immaculate application. No one is. Well, I thought it was when we launched this.
Yeah.
Essentially, it was, right?
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty good. I just,
Okay, explain budget and then also a better understanding of just the route and how logistically you pull this off.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
because their logistics is probably gonna help us explain the budget.
right.
All right, so.
And just as a side note, I found this information from the Olympia and beyond.
Go.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah,
You liked it?
I feel like they're being more responsive to, and they listen and they act.
Okay, so the relationship is headed in the right direction.
I think so.
I like hearing that.
By my count, we have 12. Nicole, is that what you have too?
Yes, I have 12 as well.
Okay, so that just the quick math, if you did 10 minutes without any breaks, that's 2 hours.
That's exactly my point. So
So
would we have, I mean, if we try to cram that all into one session, that we would only have the one session and we'd probably be here for 3 hours.
So what's our schedule? What is our, we have scheduled out for the
The
next two
20s.
Fridays, right?
Yeah,
we do.
we break it into two, like,
You could have just puts the onus on you to then you have to wrap up that decision-making process on the 30th.
on the,
Yeah.
the Friday
last day.
after. So if we did 1 hour with them, 1 hour with them, and maybe Nicole could give them, time slots and say, hey, here's all the time slots they can pick one. I don't know how she does it, but in that way, we would be here 1 hour. Maybe we can make those decisions. We'd be here 1 hour. We can make those decisions. That meeting would be an hour and a half, right in our usual timeline.
Well, do you want to try to make a longer Friday or does that work with everyone's schedule? So we have noon to 1 now, which is obviously not going to be enough. Would you want to do a noon to 2:30 and power through it?
We're going at noon because
That was what the original time that everyone agreed to for the 23rd. Is that right?
no, I'm just wondering if we should, pull it forward an hour.
No, we could do anything you
And-
want.
If we want to do like 11 to,
You can do 11 to 1. I'd probably argue you're gonna need at least, I'd say 2.5 hours, just to provide a little bit of
So maybe,
transition time.
so the spread, break it into 2, 11 to 1.
30.
Or whatever, and then the following Friday.
Then you have all the information,
Right,
you could then finalize everything.
Right.
That's probably, it could be at least an hour meeting.
I'm with that.
So
Yeah.
to your point, in the past, it does seem kind of quick, but kind of 5-minute presentation, 5-minute follow-up questions from LTAC if it's not clear. You may have like a 1 or 2 minute, transition from the next group, and then you're doing that basically 12 times.
and that takes how much time do you say?
Well, if you just did straight time, it's
Yeah.
2 hours and you have
Okay.
30-minute wiggle room.
But if we broke it into two different meetings,
Yeah.
it could be an hour per meeting, and then we can spend a half hour debating, decision making, and then we're at an hour and a half for each one of those. But at the end of the second one, we would have to be prepared to give all of our final.
Right,
Right. Even if you did 2 minutes between presentations, you're gonna add, 24 minutes
Right,
to that.
right.
So you really are gonna use it, yeah.
well, you guys figure it out and I'll be there, but I kind of think at the end, we should probably,
Stopwatch.
yeah.
I mean, that's what I did the first year. We did this. I did a, we did a time.
Right.
So one thing we could do on some, because I think you just really want to have the amendment to thank them. So
Oh,
like,
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah.
Like, so
that, I was
he's
gonna get to
got
that.
4,
Right.
okay,
So like Juneteenth, for instance, I don't think you need the full 10
yeah,
minutes.
right,
I think you want to just have a quick. Sounds like the community would like to say, thank you for coming,
Yeah.
using our community. We're happy to sponsor,
right,
just a kind of a quick, we could probably limit that one to 5 minutes.
right.
To your point, because the chamber does bring 4 in, it's gonna be a little bit difficult because I'm just counting just the requests coming in.
Okay, so
That would
then-
add more time to it.
So we
Yeah.
could probably double his time, his 10 minutes, and still come out.
Sure. So we'll look at maybe potentially giving, 20 minutes for that.
As your resident theater person here, 10 minutes for a presentation It's a long time.
It is.
It's a dead air.
Well, it's 5 minutes for
For
the,
presentation, 5 minutes for question and answer. Okay,
yes, completely agree.
I mean, I can do a lot of hat and cane dance in 10 minutes, but nobody wants to do that. So, yeah,
Okay, so each person gets 5 and 5. And there's some who won't need that much, and we have one person coming to speak on 4 different ones, so he won't need that much. If we block out an hour and a half, we should be good. And if we block out an hour and a half between 11 and,
Well, 2.5 hours.
I'm sorry, 2.5 hours, from 11 and 1:30.
Yeah, that's the time. So 11, does that work with everyone's schedule?
I would prefer to do a long day next Friday because I'm out of town the following Friday, but I'm
Oh.
remote in.
Okay.
So, I would love to see us go longer next week or start at 11.
Didn't you leave town last Friday or something like that?
Oh, yeah, he's always like.
I'm on the go.
Okay.
I'll be on vacation this time, but I will call in or I will be into the.
No, you're not allowed for vacation.
Wow.
So Suzanne, how does that fit with your schedule?
That's fine.
Okay,
11 to 1:30 it is. We will
Next
provide
Friday?
a meal. Hey, do you want to have a discussion now?
oh, anybody got meal preferences? Yeah, okay, you guys don't know the history. Last time, okay, I was like, we're having gyros from
Yeah.
this place right here in Lacey. I'd love to patronize these guys. They've been here for at least 20 years that I know of. You know, and then it was that, or it was McConey's, and McConey's gets so much business, it's ridiculous. Now they have 5 locations. I remember when the place I used to go to.
We don't know their profit and loss. We don't know their.
Well,
P&L.
we do know that they've popped up 3 new locations
True.
since 2000. So I would imagine they're doing okay.
I just want to put it out there that we don't know what their financial position is.
We
but-
don't.
Okay,
Okay, so
They do make a lot of bread.
they,
are we off this meeting though?
no, we're not. We're deciding what lunch is gonna be for next meeting.
It's another classic joke.
And so Susanna, Ruth, Chad, what would you like to have for lunch next Friday?
I'm good with euros to mix it up and give business to a different vendor.
Ruth,
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I am not asking you to have euros. I'm asking what you would really like to have. Seriously,
I eat anything, so I'm not fussy.
city manager?
This is not about me. This is what the committee would like. I'd love to support.
Suzanne? you have any-
Suzanne?
Oh, I'm pretty easy. I like pretty much anything.
Okay,
So it
nobody
sounds
can make a
like-
decision,
Sounds like euros it is.
right?
Yeah,
If,
Yeah.
if we can get a menu from.
So in my defense, I did not know the taste of the committee. So I was just going easy subs.
yeah.
McCann-
no, that
McConaughey-
was-
I'm risk averse. That's a
It is,
non-business
it is,
decision.
okay, I think it is good
Yes.
to
Don't
support.
let him backpedal out.
I call it heroes. It was a great debate. I'm on what you call,
Yeah.
but
I
it's
think it's
okay.
really good to support different venues or different restaurants.
We
within
do it
our-
on EDC,
Yeah.
go to different places.
Can I provide one update? I'm glad we were
Yeah.
able to fix the menu. That's great.
Mm,
And we're buying.
That was our hardest decision today.
You had asked a question last time about how does the Lake Fair promote Lacey? So you should see in front of you, there was a lapel pin. Cities are prominently placing that, Lacey being on top. We have the unity in our community, which also has the logo. That's what they display on their floats.
Well, look, we got top billing on there.
Um,
You guys see that? Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater? Unless that's
Oh my
from, is
God,
that from,
yes.
unless that's from 2005.
Yeah,
Two things that we are going to follow up on though, because I believe the committee asked that. We did ask for a brochure, if they do a brochure. So that is requested, still outstanding. And I believe there's a question related to what Lacey centered businesses participate in the Lake Fair event. So if anyone's been to Lake Fair, there's obviously booths, that type of thing. So the kind of question was, are there Lacey businesses going there and participating? So we will clarify that also.
Wow. I love how you just do not miss details. favorite part.
Someone is good at his job.
I'm just glad we got the meal thing. That is like the most stressful part of my career.
Is what?
Figure out the
Figuring out what
meals.
Cell-Tech is gonna have for lunch.
Oh,
That's-
I hear
it stresses him out.
with us.
No.
And that's when he likes to call an audible.
I'll send everyone an menu so you can.
So for us,
The voice from the computer.
There you go.
yeah.
Thank you.
well, then, we have reached the end of our agenda.
Oh my
And
goodness.
if there aren't any objections, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
This has been. quite
Have a good weekend,
the
Susanna.
experience.
Thank
Right.
you.
You too, thank you.
I'm gonna check calendars on that one.